Let's Chat About It is a thought-provoking podcast where your hosts Lenora Sneva and Max Brown engage in meaningful conversations with everyday individuals about the pivotal moments when they realized they were different. Tune in every Friday for fresh, inspiring videos that delve into personal narratives exploring the diverse journeys of self-discovery. From childhood revelations to adulthood epiphanies, each episode is a celebration of the diverse paths that shape our identities. This is more than just a podcast. It's a platform inviting you to connect with others through storytelling.
All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Let's Chat About It. I'm Lenora Sneva with Max Brown. We host this wonderful podcast, and today our special guest is...
Is it a mystery guest?
It's a mystery.
Yeah, it's a mystery guest. I'm excited for this.
It's kind of like when you go to the mystery movie
Ooh,
at Regal Cinema.
So you're saying I'm going to cry?
Yeah, you might cry.
I might cry. Know. Okay, you never know. We're going to find out on this episode of Let's Chat About It.
That's right. Do we have a question for the week here?
I do. I've got one for you. So we are finally getting to that stage where, like, we can play board games, card games with the kids, and their attention span lasts long enough, and the games aren't so boring that I lose my attention as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm interested if there's like anything in the Sneva family that is a go-to board game, card game, kind of family game that you all are like, this is our jam.
Yeah. I feel like if everyone's in the right mood, we can do some Monopoly, but it's...
Ooh, you gotta be committed.
You do. And you gotta be patient. But if we're just trying to have a fun game, we do Crazy Eights.
Okay.
You like that one? I know it's so simple, but
yeah, simple's good.
We do Crazy Eights, and then if we're at a restaurant, we do Crazy Eights on the phone because there's part of the iPhone app. There's Crazy Eights, so we just have this little profile set up, and then someone sends the link to each other. I'll click on it, and then we play it.
So you're that family in the corner where you're all on your phones, but you're actually all engaging with each other.
Right.
Weird.
Exactly.
Wow.
Awkward. What about you?
I would say so. We just got Slamwich for Christmas.
Oh, what's that one?
It's like it's a card game. It has a bunch of different like designs that are semi-food related, and there's a couple of other unique ones. And you basically it's kind of like War. Like you play the card, and then if you get like two in a double, like one person plays one card, and the next person plays the same card. You slap it, and then you take it. Maybe it's like slaps and people play.
Yeah.
You take that. Or if it's like a pattern of cards, you can slap it and take it. So in the kid, it's one of those things where it's like the kids really enjoy it, and I'm hyper competitive. So I beat the boys twice tonight already. Just to show them who's boss. And the other one that's actually been really fun for us, I was at a coffee shop after we moved here, and there was this group of there's this table, and it looked like a mom and her younger daughter, and then what looked maybe like some college age kids, maybe like nannies, and they're all playing this game together, and they're all looking like they're having fun. And I'm like, if you can have that broad of an age group participating in something, like this has got to be good. So I was doing that. Like,
so did you walk over to the strangers and ask them what?
No. I just kind of looked, right. I was just kind of like, I was looking, I was creeping. And it's called Rat-a-tat-cat. I said it. I'll admit it. And it's called Rat-a-tat-cat, and it's really a fun little game that the kids have really enjoyed. And when my folks come here, we play it with them, and they really enjoy it. When we have friends over, they play it. So it's a really easy, quick to learn game that is fun for all ages, and you can kind of change the length of the game too, which is nice. So you can commit to something for 5 minutes or 5 hours if you wanted to.
Oh, yeah. That's a long
I'm not
time.
doing that. We typically limit it to like 30 minutes, but you could go for as long as you wanted.
Right. Well, that's like Monopoly. Like you could literally, it could be. I remember back in the day
until Dad flips the board over and says, "This isn't real,"
or he just gets up and leaves. But I remember back in the day, I was a latchkey kid, so in the summertime, there were some other kids on my block that were home by themselves, so we would all get together and we would play Monopoly all day long, all day. Because you can.
Yeah. And what else you gonna do?
Right. But you can, because it's like, oh, I have like $30 more left. And then you just start making deals with other people and selling your houses and
Oh yeah.
apartments.
Was there ever like one thing that you always had a strategy, like I have to do, like you always wanted to do when you played
Well, I
Monopoly?
think I always wanted Park Place. Is it the blue ones? Park
Yeah,
Place
Park
and
Place, like is it No,
Boardwalk,
Broadway?
maybe?
Boardwalk, I
Broadway,
think
yeah.
maybe,
I
yeah.
always wanted those just because they're high end
The
and
high end. Yeah, you're
right.
bougie.
Yeah.
Look
And I
where you
always
live.
like to get I always wanted the purple ones too, the cheap ones. I like the
Oh,
Mediterranean.
you had to diversify.
Yeah, Baltic,
Yeah.
whatever. Maybe that was the blue one. I
Yep.
don't know. Yeah, I wanted the cheap ones and the most expensive ones.
There you go. I was a big railroad magnet. Like I
Yeah,
always wanted the railroads. Like that was kind of my jam. Because I think part of it was like, they're not crazy expensive, but if you can kind of build
right.
on those, you're in
Yeah,
good
no,
shape.
that's good.
Yeah, I was always
Exactly.
about those. I haven't played Monopoly in a long time. I might need to bust
See,
that
you
out here
gotta
soon.
bring that to the kids. They'd like it. You just
I don't know. That's one of those, like, I don't know if they've got the attention span for that. We'll
right.
find
It
out.
takes a
And
second.
then,
Well,
yeah, it does.
another game that I don't play this with the family necessarily, but when the on my husband's side, when
Mhm.
my sister-in-laws and I get together,
Okay.
and my mother-in-law, we play spoons.
Okay.
And
I haven't played that. I remember playing it.
yeah,
I need
just
someone to tell me how to do it again. It's been
right.
so
It's just
long.
like whole deck of cards. Everyone gets 4
Mhm.
cards. You sit around in a circle. If there's 5 people, you put 4 spoons in the middle.
Yeah.
And then you have a dealer, and then you just try to
Pass
collect 4 of a
cards?
kind. Yeah,
You
you just
pass
try to collect
cards?
4 of a kind. Dealer just keeps
Yep.
going and
Yep.
4 of a
Yep.
kind.
Yep.
Only keep 4
Okay.
in your hand. As soon as you get 4 of a kind, you
You
grab a
grab a
spoon.
spoon.
But it can
Yeah.
get crazy.
But is that also where if one person grabs a spoon, anybody can grab a spoon?
Yes. Yeah. As
So
soon
you
as
don't
a
have to.
spoon is taken,
It's
you
just
grab a spoon.
as long as one person has it. Okay. Yeah.
Yep. And
There's
then
like a
you sell
handful of games I
spoons.
remember playing a lot. Like we would play at lunchtime in high school,
Oh, really?
and that was one of them. Like I remember
That's
spoons, and
funny.
then we had another one called like Bomb or 13, where you had a bunch of different things going. I can't remember any of them really, but I do
Well,
remember
you're old.
that's one I remember.
You're old.
What you said? Excuse me?
Yeah.
What? Is my hairline talking?
All right, Max. I think we need to bring in our guest.
Awesome. Let's do it.
All right. Oh, wait a second.
Oh, is he here?
Yeah, he's here.
Oh
Let's
my
do this.
gosh. Wow.
All right, Max. Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Max Brown. I am in my mid 30s, even though my hairline says I'm older. I was born and raised in Olympia, Washington. Um, and you should like prompt me. You can ask some questions to poke if you're like not sure
Yeah.
I'm giving you all the juice. Um, yeah, born and raised in Olympia, Washington. I'm from a family of 4. My parents are I got to give the family of origin story, right? It's like therapy.
All right.
My dad's from the Midwest, from Iowa. He moved out with a friend for law school, kind of on a whim. And his friend got homesick and left, and my dad stayed. My mom was born in Hawaii, but she is not Hawaiian. She's just a military brat, and her dad was stationed out there. She eventually landed in Lakewood, Washington. And so they met when they
Did you go to
were.
Lakes?
She went to Clover Park.
Clover Park.
High
Okay.
School. Yeah, they lived like right across the street from Clover Park. And then I don't know if Lakes. Sorry, Mom. I'm not sure Lakes was a high school when she was going there.
Oh,
Maybe
yeah,
I'm wrong.
maybe. Yeah.
So they met. They met when they were working together down in Olympia in government. And I've got an older brother who also works in. I kind of jokingly say the family business. My brother works for state government. I work in state government. Both my parents are retired now. I'm married. I met my wife when we were in high school, and we dated through college. I graduated. We got married. She had finished her AA and was working for State Farm, which was her family business. They do like a lot of them do insurance work. And then we got married. We have 4 kids, and recently we moved to the state of Georgia, and that's where we're out. And I had no idea when we moved out that like Lenora's got a lot of ties
Yeah, I
to
do.
Augusta.
That's right.
So yeah,
You knew that before you got there.
Before we got here, yeah, but I didn't realize like I think we said we were moving, and then you were like,
Yeah.
I find out, oh yeah, like that's where my dad was stationed, and one of your siblings was born here,
Both
right?
of them were.
Both of them were born
In
here,
Augusta.
and
Yeah,
yeah,
and my
and so
mom. Yep.
and you've got family here still, and
Yep.
it's like, and I remember I moved down here, and I think I showed you a picture, like my parents had come, and we were at the farmer's market, and then
Mhm.
you showed me a picture of your
Oh, yeah.
girls in like the exact same spot
Exactly.
from like 45 years ago. And
No,
so,
yeah. No, did you
yeah.
say 45?
No, 4 or 5.
Oh,
Yeah, your daughters who are older
I was
than
like,
you are. Yeah.
wait a second,
What's this guy
Max.
talking about? They didn't even have pictures then. I didn't even do. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. Yeah, like does that
Yeah,
that capture it?
that's good, Max. You did a
All
good
right, all
job.
right. It's like
I'm gonna put
I'm
some
on a
clap
podcast or
noises in
something.
there.
Oh, it just made me but I can't hear him now, so I don't feel good. And and that's the other thing is my spirit animal.
Yes.
I'm a golden retriever. So like
Did you? Okay, hold on, because I hear you say that a lot. But did you actually like go to some website and find that?
No. It's just
Oh,
like if you've
you
seen
just know.
yeah, if you've seen Up, the Pixar
Oh yeah,
movie,
yeah.
and Doug, like that's me. Like I'm
That's
Doug.
you.
It's just like give me treats, give me praise. Like it you know, I
Treats,
need to feel that. And that's probably honestly as you probably get into maybe my story that'll probably
carbonated water, things
explain.
like that.
We don't need to tell the story of how I went over to your house and you offered me carbonated water and I drank like an entire case. But that's for another time.
All right, so Max, the big question. Tell us about when you knew you were different first. Where were you at? What was happening?
Yeah. So I think this has been and we've talked about this because spoiler alert for our listeners out there, Lenora's like, you're gonna have to do this sometime. And then I think and I'm like, maybe, yeah, sometime. And I'm pretty sure Lenora today was like, tonight, you're doing it tonight. So here I've been thinking about this because I've been ruminating on it a little bit. And I think one of the things I've been learning through the process of doing this podcast is the connection between like when people felt different was also the same time others tried to other them.
Right.
Like it didn't make them feel like they were other. And I'd say mine was kind of, I think, in a couple phases through elementary school. So I was thinking about this morning. This is an experience I think about sometimes, but have forgotten. I remember, so my brother and I have an older brother. He was three grades ahead of me.
Right.
And we went to this little co-op school when we were younger. And so but it only ran through third grade. And so he finished third grade. I'd finished kindergarten in this little co-op school. And then it was like, hey, you've got to go to you got to go to the public school. Like there's no fourth grade for you here. And so that meant I had to go to the public school as well. So we both went our first day. And I remember we went to we got ready for the bus. We had to like walk to somebody else's house because there was no bus stop for us. And like our neighbors came with us. Like, my parents were so excited. My brother's like going into fourth grade and I'm going into first. And it was like, everyone was looking at us weird. Like, what's the parade?
Yeah.
Like, what's with the parade? And then we got on the bus and we're the last stop and there's no spots. And so and I've never been on I've never been on a bus before. So I'm freaking out. And I remember the bus driver just yelling like, sit down, like find a seat. And I was like, this is going to suck. Like this thing sucks.
Yeah. I don't like
finally,
this.
Somehow found a seat and went to school. But everybody who was in first grade had all gone to kindergarten together.
Yeah.
There was already another Max in the class.
Oh boy.
So it wasn't just and my last name's Brown, so I was Max B. The other wasn't Max, so I was like, oh, I'm the B kid, but it was really Max K and Max B. We ended up becoming pretty good friends in elementary school, but like that's kind of where it started. It took me a while to kind of assimilate to that and just being the new kid on the block. But then as I got older, I also started to by older I mean just within the next probably 2-3 years, you're looking at the chubby kid in class. And I got bullied a ton.
And you said this before because I remember the episode with Brian. You kind of mentioned some of this. Yeah.
Like I definitely I could relate to like growing up like third grade basically through seventh grade, and like it started in eighth grade, but eighth grade was a really that's maybe another part of the conversation, but kind of a shift. No, I mean, it was good. It was kind of a funny shift, a really weird shift. One person who kind of entered into my life that I actually don't I don't keep in touch with, but really played a major role, I would say, in like what the next 5 years of my life ended up
Mhm.
being. But through like 7th grade and through a little bit through 8th grade, got bullied. Like
Mm.
didn't want to go to school. I would
Yeah.
fake being sick a lot. And even like tried to convince my parents to send me to a different school because
Yeah.
I
Switch.
hated it that much. So I'd say that was kind of like for me, that's when I knew. And I think that's the thing is like it's not necessarily that I knew I was different because it was more like, yeah, I'm the fat kid. I can look in the mirror and see that. But that doesn't I think the hard part is at that age, I didn't have the framework to understand that um how I look doesn't define who I am. And
Right.
so when you and then you're 8 and it's really easy to let other people define you. And then
Mhm.
that becomes its own, you know,
What
therapy
did
when you're
you
33.
What did you tell your, parents
Nothing.
when it started really?
Yeah,
The
I
whole
was
time you just
like,
kinda let it go?
well, I didn't. I think this is part of my own therapy. It's been I just felt a deep sense of shame about it.
Yeah.
And it was like embarrassing. And
Mhm.
so just didn't really want to talk about it at all. Like I didn't want to be a bother. I didn't want it to be an issue. And honestly, what would typically end up happening, like I remember every year pretty much. I love my mom for this. So I think if people can't see me I think maybe you listened to an episode before, but I'm 6'3", and
Right.
I always joke that I get my height from my mom because she's 5'2". I don't think she's 5'2" anymore. Like she's getting
Hey,
shorter.
you leave Kate
And
alone.
but hey, but her comment is always, I may be 5'2", but I'm still tall enough to kick your ass. And so God love her. Every year, pretty much in middle school, I had to have like a parent teacher conference with
Yeah.
I'd have a block teacher who'd have me for like 2 or 3 classes. And I was the loudest kid. I was the biggest kid. I always said the last word. Like I got in trouble every time. Every year I'd get in trouble. And we'd have the parent teacher conference. And like
Yep.
sometimes it would be because of me being disruptive. Sometimes it was because of like I was being disruptive because kids were being jerks to me. And
Right.
my mom, every time would go to bat,
Yep.
she was just like, "What are you doing about those other kids? Huh? What about this and
Exactly.
this?" And I'd sit there like, I know I'm not, I know I'm not innocent, but like, thank you.
Yeah, but it's true, right? Yeah.
My mom went to bat for me way
That's
more than I
awesome.
probably deserved. So yeah,
Well, that's what they're supposed to do.
exactly. I learned a lot from my like. I think reflecting on that time
Mhm.
there's a lot to learn from that about my mom.
Yeah, that's cool. What about your, so this was in middle school now when you're really getting kinda bullied and
Oh
teased? Or no,
yeah.
3rd
Well,
grade you
actually,
said?
honestly, it was like honestly. So part of it was when I was younger in that elementary school.
Yeah, elementary.
We had I know 2nd grade. It was just a 2nd grade class. But I think when I was in 3rd grade and in 4th grade, I was in a 3rd, 4th, and a 4th, 5th split. So I'd have older kids who were just
Yeah.
a-holes.
And
Um,
then, like, the thing now is, like, those 6th graders are now in middle school. Like, they're not
oh yeah,
even in
they didn't leave.
elementary school anymore,
No, I
which
got to go
is
back because everybody's favorite 3 years of school is 6th, 7th, and 8th grade.
oh
Like,
gosh.
I mean,
You know,
everybody's polite and no one has any insecurities, and
I
everyone's
know, you're right.
fully developed emotionally and mentally, and so it's a great
Yeah,
time for everybody.
yeah, you're right. It was pretty icky. Yeah, there's
Yeah,
things
middle
going
school is
on.
bad.
It
No,
was. But I actually had fun, I think definitely my 8th grade year. Oh,
well,
we had a
and
good time. But
that
yeah,
was the
7th
thing.
grade
Like
was a
we
little
had,
awkward.
so this is what ends up kind of being the funny thing, and um, one of my so my best friend through high school was my worst enemy. Like we hated each other in middle
Oh, wow.
school.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm gonna share this story. And so for those with children, there's a little bit of language here, so bear with me. But this was a good example of where we started. We were both, both pretty. I mean, I was a big kid, but I played a lot of sports. Pretty athletic.
Mhm.
You know, could handle myself in most athletic situations. And so was he, but not a big kid. He was a cross country runner, so a little twig. And we were playing kickball in PE, 6th grade, and I'm pitching, he's kicking, and he hits this absolute rocket just right at me, and I grab it, and I hold on to it, and he's out, and you could tell he thought he would just, he thought I'd done really well. I stopped it right
You caught it,
away.
yeah.
Miraculously, like it hurt. And I'm like, I just go, take that, Manning. And I just yell at him, and he looks right back at me and goes, shut up, fat ass. And our teacher was immediately like, you're going to the office. And so that's our relationship starting. But then we had another kid came to our school in 8th grade who is not from the area and didn't have the baggage, didn't have the background, didn't have all the history, and was just like, hey, that guy seems pretty cool. He does sports. That guy seems pretty cool, and he does sports. Like, we should just hang out. Like, I need to make friends. And we were just kind of a part of this friend group that, like, we carried on, on and off through high school. Like, toward the end of it, we found, we're in different friend groups. But, like, if not for him, I don't know if, and that Manning, his name's Graydon. And ironically, you live in Olympia. Like, his dad worked with my dad.
Yeah.
His sister was in the same grade as my brother. And we ended up becoming best friends. He was in my wedding,
Oh, yeah.
just, we still talk today, and I need to call him pretty soon and check in on
have
him.
him on the show.
I thought about it. He might be,
That'd be
he
a
might
good
be
story.
one of the guys. Yeah.
That'd be a good story. I think so. Do you have any regrets? Like, if you could go back and talk to younger Max and say, you should do this a little differently. Is there anything that you'd do differently? Like in elementary school or middle school?
Everything.
Oh, really?
I mean, I think for me, like, yeah, I mean, I would say that's a loaded question.
Okay. Well, it sounds like what I heard you say.
It's not bad. I mean, it's not bad. I think,
no.
But I'm just saying, like, I think, well, yeah. No, go ahead. Go ahead. You're gonna.
No, I think
you're gonna put me off the hot seat, so I should let you.
I was gonna try. I'm gonna put you back on there, but I think I heard you say something like, your mom would come to your parent-teacher conference and kind of stick up for you, maybe a little bit more than you deserved. So, is there something like, is there the behavior that you were showing back then? Is there like, if I could talk to my younger self, I would say this, or redirect me this way, or I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it too is, yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, I think when I was young, not having a good grasp on, I think that when you're young and you're impressionable, and even I think for a lot of people, even in their adult life, if you don't have a firm grasping on the fact that you are not defined by what other people say about you, you are not defined by the way you look, you're not defined by the amount of success you have, you're not defined even by your family, like, but finding your own, finding a grounding of who you are. For me, that came later in life when I became a Christian, and it's still something I struggle with. Like, who am I defined by? How am I defined? I think that's easy to forget, even as an adult, but especially as a kid, to be like, realistically, I don't think none of those people, maybe from my elementary school life, I've got probably at least 2 degrees of separation from everybody. I don't really keep in touch with anybody from that time in my life. And I think that's like, those are not the people that are going to define you.
Right.
And being able to stick to that. Go ahead. Throw out another question. What do you got?
I had another one, but I was just wondering about, like, you kind of answered it, I think, about, like,
well, just ask it. See if we got to go.
Like,
see if we can go deeper.
Self-talk to yourself, like, I'm not who they say I am. So I appreciate that, because I think that's.
But I'll be honest, like, I think the other hard, like, the part that is challenging sometimes is when, I'd put it this way: growing up as a, you're gonna get philosophical in personal, Max. So you can edit this out if you want. But I think about the time that I grew up. So I graduated high school in 2007. I started, I guess I was 1995. I was going to elementary school. So, right, like, very formative years, late 90s, early 2000s. And you think about that time, really, here's how I describe it: very sexualized, like hypersexualized culture, in terms of what we were growing up in. Um, Clear definitions of masculinity being a certain physique, and like,
This
if
is
you
the
go back
90s?
and heck yeah, go watch, like, I mean, think about like Spring Break on MTV in the 90s and the
Oh, yeah, that's
2000s.
true. Yeah.
Like that's like the macho, you know,
Yeah.
you go every bad toxic, like, you wonder where, like, why you have toxic masculinity in our culture. Why didn't you go back and look what was on the TV for the latchkey kids in the late 90s and early 2000s? And I think the hard part was, if that's the model that culture is telling me is how is how your value and your
Yeah.
worth is defined, and then I look in the mirror and see what I see, how
Yeah.
can you not feel a little bit insecure?
Yeah, yeah. I hear you. Do you regret not talking to your mom and dad and telling them, like, yeah, they're kinda I mean, it sounds like your mom
Ooh.
found out it eventually, but
Oh yeah,
you think you
yeah.
should have told them sooner or, eh?
This is like you told me to tell my mom to listen to this podcast, so now I gotta
Yeah,
tell her
so
to,
here
like,
we
maybe
go.
censor this. Sorry, mom. No, I think this is the brutally honest question, or this is the brutally honest reflection: is I wish, I don't know if I had the trust that I needed in my parents, and if
Mm,
but I also, I think that's also just something that I'm still insecure about in general, is like the ability to trust people. I think that I've heard it. I had a pastor when I was doing some schooling put it this way, and it was like, um, being transparent really doesn't require anything, but being vulnerable means you're giving somebody something they can use to hurt you.
mhm,
And that's why, like,
mhm.
honestly, I think sharing some of this is that balance between, I'm being transparent, I'm also being a little vulnerable, because
Oh, yeah,
ultimately what I share can, anybody, like, how, depending on how vulnerable you are, you're giving people information that they can use to hurt you. And I think that's,
exactly.
vulnerability is hard. And I think, I just don't know if I really always trusted my parents to be able to
Mm,
um, deal with my vulnerability the way I needed it to be dealt with.
got
And they
it.
may have and I just, but the hard reality is also, like, I don't know if I gave them a fair
A chance.
chance.
Yeah, right. You
Yeah,
just kinda made
and
that
that's,
decision.
yeah, I made that decision, and I decided to bury that, and find other ways to cope with it that weren't healthy, and showed up in many different ways at different phases of my life. And I think the reality, like, the beauty of being able to sit back and reflect on it now, is having kids and being willing to figure out, how do I create space, or how am I shutting down space and opportunities for them to be vulnerable,
Mhm.
and for me to hold that vulnerability as a safe space for them. And I'm not sure how I'm doing.
I think you're doing good.
Well, man, you should hear the yelling matches that are going on in our house these days. So
Well, at least I mean, well, I don't know. I think
we got a lot of big we have big personalities and big
yeah.
emotions, which are not bad.
No.
Um, but when they turn into unproductive and hurtful, it's fun to be a dad. It's really fun. It's really fun to be a dad.
What's
So,
that book that you're reading right now? I think you mentioned
yeah,
earlier.
well, actually, I've got one book I'm in the middle of reading, that my wife Shannon has been begging me to read forever. And I'm finally getting around to it, and that's called Habits of the Household.
That's right.
And so I'm just started that, and then I've got another book that uh, we're going out of we're going out of town for, and I'm like, I've got it on audiobook, and I think I'm hopefully going to listen to it. And I've listened to a podcast earlier this week, and was just it I'm like, this it was so encouraging for my soul and for where I'm at in my life. And it was based on, like, it was a podcast about, with a guy who just written a book, and that book just got released, and now I've got it on audiobook, so I can't wait to listen to that. And I think there's a lot of things that kind of play off of each
Mhm.
other, so I'm interested to hear the two of them
Are you
together.
gonna tell us the name of the book or the
Yeah, so the other book is called, I think it's called Practicing the Way,
okay.
and it's by John Mark Comer, who's I don't know, he's a former pastor and from
Mhm.
Portland.
Oh, cool.
And I'm really interested to read that.
Research area in the nation. So that's Interesting.
Yeah.
A tough crowd.
Yeah, tough crowd. Not in Seattle. So,
right?
Yeah.
All right, Max. Any parting words? Any words of advice?
No, I think the thing that's honestly been probably one of the most life-giving things for us for my wife and I as parents, that is hard because we're having moved, we sort of lost it, but
Yeah.
we're still trying to maintain it. We had really close friendships, but in particular, one family that we were really close with, like family. And husband, wife, who we had known since college, about and had been kind of on and off in connection, but then managed to become good friends before we all had kids. And that was a couple who we were incredibly vulnerable with, incredibly honest with, and vice versa. And being in a community where, like, hey, sometimes you need an umpire to call balls and strikes, both for your marriage and for your kids, to be like, hey, this is what we're dealing with. Are you dealing with this? How would you approach this? Like, this is what we're dealing with in our marriage. But also to have some older, wiser couples around us who can be like, even if it's just to be like, we've been there.
Right.
And it's hard. And we love you and we're praying for you and we're here for you if you need something. Like, that aren't, and I struggle with, like, is it family? Is it not family? I think there's something that's sort of helpful about it not being.
Yeah, a little bit more neutral. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a little bit more neutrality to it, that I think is helpful. But yeah, just some people around you that you can be open and honest and vulnerable with, and that you know that your vulnerability is going to be taken into their hands in a way that's loving and encouraging.
That's good. I like it.
And so, my wife's a big fan of, her name's Jenny Allen, and I would say to her, the title of her book, I think it's important. Find your people.
Find your
like
people.
Whoever they find the people around you that can really do that for you. I would say loneliness is an epidemic in the United States, especially after COVID. And I think a lot of our problems come from not being in connection with other people in deep, meaningful ways.
That's good. All right. Thank you, Max.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for being on this show and sharing.
I know. I'll have to be on sometime. Maybe I'll come back next week or something.
Maybe you will.
Maybe. Okay.
All right. Thanks everybody. We'll see you next week. Bye.
The Let's Chat About It video podcast, produced and edited by Lenora Sneva, invites listeners to share their stories. To participate, email letschatnow1010@gmail.com. New episodes featuring people like you and me are released every Friday. Thank you for listening and being a part of a community who cares. Please follow us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Spotify. Thanks for listening.